Hey guys, welcome to Metal Sharpens Metal. My name is Daniel. Today we've got a song called Bouquet by the band Counterparts from up in Canada.
Canada.
Where is it?
Canada.
Okay.
So it's another song that might kind of hit you in the feels, but we try not to shy away from too much of that here. And I hope you can find something of value and enjoy the music as well. So let's jump in. Whoa, just jumping right in. The drummer's bonkers. Heavy subject matter too. Gosh, the singing, the lead line. Oh, just get so many chills. And the first breath we've taken. Poof, man, quite the abrupt ending there. Just a short song, intense, harsh, lots going on. But man, the mix on that song, the levels between the drums, the guitars, and everything is just epic. It's awesome how they've captured that sound so well. I've always loved their mixes for this type of music. Yeah, this song absolutely shreds. They are super tight and technical players. Their drummers have always been amazing. They've had at least two that I know of, and I've really been liking what their latest guy, Kyle, has been doing. The songs are super well written, like I said, intense and harsh, but still full of tons of melody and little details to discover. So yeah, definitely good gym music. Their lead vocalist is Brendan Murphy, and as you probably gathered, he writes about some pretty serious topics. He is actually a riot on Twitter. He's super witty. He swears like a sailor, and I would not condone everything he says, but he is self-deprecating. He seems very relatable and actually pretty kind in person. But it's pretty clear from these words and many of their other songs that his humor is a mask for the pain that he has underneath. And many of these songs he's writing about his depression. I'm sure it's a therapeutic process to go through to write these words and perform them with such intensity and ferocity, kind of that primal, getting it off your chest type feeling. So I am glad that he has that as an outlet instead of doing anything drastic like he describes in these lyrics to himself. But it's indicating that he is in need of relief. Their albums are usually chock full of banger after banger. So I'd recommend you give them a listen, use a critical ear. Even despite his kind of jovial external demeanor, I've noticed that pretty much every album has at least one, what you might euphemistically call a reverse ballad. Instead of a love song, it's a hate song, where he's describing his enemy dying in often painful detail.
if I had a gun with 2 bullets and I was in a room with Hitler, Bin Laden, and Toby, I would shoot Toby twice.
Yikes. I don't know, maybe they deserve it, but dang, it gets really dark and there is not much half and half to balance it out. So he also often writes about themes of being impossible to forgive, whether from others around him or from God. And I get the sense that he was raised some kind of cultural Christian, more specifically Catholic, if I had to guess. So there are definitely some issues with his understanding of grace and forgiveness. I'm sure some of these songs are actually written as an explanation to the Christians in his life that might just be trying to explain the gospel to him. And he's kind of pushing back and telling them, no, that's not for me. Like I'm unsavable at this point.
I'm in hell! I'm burning! Help me!
You shouldn't joke about that.
So I don't think I'm anyone special in attempting to do that, but if anyone else benefits, then I'll be plenty happy. So Brendan is a poet. You may not agree with his conclusions and what he says exactly, but you have to admit that he gets his points across effectively.
Your art was the prettiest art of all the art.
And he has just great word choice. I really like the ways that he makes you think about the problem that he's describing. The general theme of this song, I would say, is suicide and kind of exploring the effect that his death would have on the people and world around him. So these first few lines, right, he says, disconnecting veins, an attempt to release my tragedy. All that we leave behind is misery, and my disease is a sanctuary. And what's cool, just kind of a side note here, is these words refer to songs and stuff that he's written in the past. So they have a song called The Disconnect. They have a song called Tragedy, The Sanctuary, and Cursed. That's what I found, just kind of off the top of my head, they rang a bell, but there's probably some other references that I'm missing there. So then he says here that his heart beats in borrowed time, the cadence that I've kept confined, existing only in the black behind my eyes. Yeah, I get a sense of him trying to kind of bottle up and contain his emotions and keep them confined behind the black of his eyes that doesn't reveal anything. The reference to a heart beating in borrowed time is a super interesting reference to me. As a Christian, my mind goes to understanding God's sovereignty in every aspect of life, even down to the exact number of heartbeats that we get. None of that is a surprise. None of that is unplanned. That is exactly how God ordains things. But I'm sure Brendan probably means that his heart is effectively a ticking clock counting down until the day that he might take his life. And that kind of goes back to the discussion of the contortionist song, Early Grave, that we did here. It comes down to desiring to control some aspect of your life. You may not be able to determine when you were born, what people think of you, or how you feel every day, but you can determine when you take your life, theoretically, if you so choose. I really hope that Brendan never chooses this route for himself, obviously. And then in these kind of chorus lines, we get these references to his perceived worthlessness. Not worthy of a memory, just forget me, and even his grave is unfit to bear the blame. He describes his burial as basically being flowers planted in the ground, but the soil refuses to cultivate him. So it's like even rotting away, he feels like he's worthless even in doing that. And so he wants people to force themselves to forget him, not allow his ghost to linger any longer than it has to, and letting his spirit breathe and find peace. He says that his only existence now is going to be in the empty spaces between breaths, as people are speaking about him. And even that speaking his name could leave a poison on their lips. It's like the mere mention of his name is potentially injurious to people because of how low he thinks of himself. Very sad stuff. At the end of that spoken word section, he says, there is nothing to be done. I can't be saved. So to counter all of this, as an image bearer of God, Brendan does have immense worth and value. He was made specifically by the Creator, by the King. He wasn't an accident, and his emotions and feelings actually aren't an accident either. We do suffer in this world because of the curse of sin, the effect that had on everybody. But God has used men like this in mighty ways in the past. Sometimes he cures them of their depression. Sometimes he doesn't, though. Sometimes they do struggle against it their whole lives. But those who are bound to the Son by faith are promised one day to have bodies that work perfectly, that don't break down, that never cry again. It's almost nearly impossible to imagine this in this world of pain that we live in right now. But our only hope is to trust the Creator who has made a promise about this. I remember a friend of mine who really likes this band as well. He was talking to some girl about it, I think, and she was like, I don't know, I don't really vibe with it much. I don't get it. And he was like, well, I mean, are you sad? Are you depressed about anything? And she's like, no, not really. And he's like, well, that's probably why. That's probably why you don't get it. It can be a cathartic experience to hear people go through these same thoughts that you have and know that you're not alone in that. And even if you don't experience these thoughts, I think that there's just a lot to relate to in the humanity of somebody being open and discussing their innermost beings. I can tell that he's hurting, and he won't find any comfort in doing what he discusses in these words. If Brendan ever sees this, just know that there are people out there who care for you and that want this, your true ultimate good for you, instead of just temporary relief from your symptoms. So thanks for joining me on another weighty song. Yeah, apparently we have a theme going here, but there is a lot of hurt in this world, and a lot of people will write about it in music. So I think it's important to see, recognize, and discuss together. I hope that was beneficial, edifying for you. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye.